We are live. Hi, Noam. Welcome to Venture with Grace.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
To start the show, I want to give a quick shout out to our amazing sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Nebius, the ultimate cloud for AI innovators. Nebius provides AI infrastructure you can count on, combining reliability and speed with flexibility and engineering support unmatched by hyperscalers. AI leaders like Meta, Shopify, and Hicksville already partner with Nebius to run their AI workloads. Plus, venture-backed startups can save up to 150K on compute costs when they apply for access. Visit Nebius.com or Nebius.com/startup to learn more. Also use code GRACE and you may get a surprise discount. Okay, so I want to start with you are a serial entrepreneur. So I think we have quite a few alumni from the Israel 8200, I believe. Are you 8200 or like? And I saw that you work at Israel Defense Force.
I serve in the intelligence corps in different types of units. So
Mhm.
I won't get into the specifics, but I had my share.
Love that. So I wanted to start with your journey. So like previously you served in the military and then you have becoming a founder and your last company got acquired before you became the VP of SimilarWeb. Now you're CEO of Alice. Maybe we could talk about like what were some early career lessons that you have learned like early on in your career that kind of shape you into who you are today.
Um, I grew up kind of like self-taught a lot of the things that served me in my career, from programming to business to many other types of skills. And like the first time I was part of a big team was actually in the army, and that taught me a lot. And right after the army, I, I did some I was an analyst in a research firm, in a consulting firm. I was a trust and safety analyst in Nokia, but it was part of let's call it like a decentralized team. There wasn't
Mhm.
very clear ownership. It was kind of
Mhm.
like to do your job. It's you're like a one person team. Like I was good at that, but I didn't learn much about working in a corporate environment. And right after that, I started my own company,
Mhm.
and that was technically the first time that I hired, fired, raised money, pitched, did everything. So it was kind of like creating your own culture, your own civilization without seeing any other examples, and it was fun. Like we did good. We ended up selling the company, and everything was great. But one of my biggest moments of learning, of personal development, was when I actually joined the company that acquired us, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden it was a completely different thing. There were like
Mhm.
way more people. There's like hierarchy. There's different ways of doing things. There's like procedures and protocols, and I learned so much about how other companies operate, about how to do things in a larger scale,
Mhm.
about all of the hard and soft skills that helped me do what I'm doing today. So, kind of like the
Mhm.
lesson here, the recommendation is that there's a lot of kind of like entrepreneurs, especially folks that are kind of like self-made, that pride themselves that they never had a job, they never
Mhm.
worked for another company, and I actually think there's so much to learn from immersing yourself in a culture that someone else created
Mhm.
and actually learning how it works. And you can adopt things that you like, you can push back things that you don't like, but the value is very high and incredible, and I'm very glad that I was blessed to have this experience.
For sure. I mean, I really like what you said about like essentially, first of all, like you may have to see greatness to like create greatness. And then as well as like, you can base off like your personal experience to create like a better team culture or like scale a team based off like what you feel like you have like personally experienced that yourself. And I want to start with like, for Alice, since like you guys started the company in like 2018, I feel like back in time, like AI was maybe it was like the first era of AI, and then it like I guess like there's like a huge like crypto period as well later on, and then now it's like an AI era again. Maybe if you want to talk about like, what were the problem that you were seeing like, 8 years ago, and then compared to like now, and what were things that like, you feel like kind of like change in the AI security landscape.
Um, I think like when we started, it was the era of social media and big data,
Mhm,
and we didn't. Some called it AI back then, so like machine learning,
mhm,
NLP. But the problem that we tried solving back then, and in
mhm,
2018, we went on a journey to help social media companies, mostly
mhm,
organizations with a lot of user-generated content,
mhm,
to deal with their trust and safety needs. Where, in order to do trust and safety, in order for you to actually keep your communities, your products safe and trusted,
mhm,
and people want to come back,
mhm,
you need to do a lot of work in kind of like cleaning them from things that you just don't want to see. You don't want gold. You don't want spam. You don't want malware. You don't want phishing. You don't want things that are completely against everything that you believe, and things that may cause people to not want to come back. If parents don't want their kids to come back to places where they can speak with predators, or when they can get exposure to content they don't want to get to see. You don't want to get your news from places that are bombarding you with clickbait and spam.
mhm,
So, but in order to fight that at scale without causing too much false positive, meaning that you're running, let's say, an algorithm that's supposed to detect content that you don't want there, and it's actually
mhm,
removing too much, which
mhm,
is a massive problem. You
mhm,
need to have a very accurate technology, and we developed that. We created set of models that are very specific for the topics they need to
mhm,
create based on harmful content that we collected from all around the web. And that's what we did. But basically, the problem that we solved and are solving is how do you scalably fight harmful behavior and harmful content where the bad actors are always one step ahead of us, and
mhm,
also when the badness is long tailed, meaning there's like a lot of different abuse areas, there's a lot of different languages, a lot of different subcultures, and it's very hard to keep up and actually match your defenses in a scalable way
mhm,
without pushing back, without creating too much false positive, and actually doing the job. So this is like a very hard problem
mhm,
that we were able to solve, and are very good at that.
mhm,
Then when AI happened and kind of like went out from the laboratories to the mainstream, and first our main partners started getting way more attacks, because now it's easier to create spam attacks and
mhm,
malware attacks and what have you.
mhm,
The models themselves started to get weaponized and used in these attacks, but also enterprises that implemented AI started getting attacked because it's a new attack landscape.
mhm,
And all of a sudden, the problem that we solved mostly for social media companies is
mhm,
now a problem that everybody who's using AI in front of customers have.
mhm.
So we saw this like massive growth spree, and since then, things are not the same.
Mhm. So many questions there. One is like I want to start with like, the AI era right now. So like basically there is we have like, so this week we have another like security investors on the show that like there is like two kind of like major category, right? Like one is like AI for security, and then one is security for AI. So essentially like, obviously I feel like you guys are security for AI, which is like, detecting a lot of the AI that kind of have been targeting these different AI companies in the agent era. Like, what would you say as like the number two concern or number one concern for the general like companies?
So, there's like when you're talking about security for AI, you need to define kind of like what kind of AI and who
Mhm,
exactly is the victim. And there's like
mhm,
let's say two or three main segments. There are the foundation models, the
mhm,
labs, those that create the models. They
Mhm.
want the model to be awesome, accurate, but also safe and secure and trusted. Trust
Mhm.
is the key term here. And in
Mhm.
order for their model to be trusted,
Mhm.
they need to prove that people can't weaponize it, so it can't be used for creating harmful activities, anywhere from teaching you how to build weapons all the way to power cyber attacks. That's one thing. The second thing is, if you're using that model,
Mhm.
you need to expect that
Mhm.
nobody would be able to abuse the model in order to hack or to steal information from you. Those are two very different things. One is
Mhm.
to harden the model to make sure it's not weaponized. The second is to make sure the model can be broken and hurt the person that is using it. Model as a weapon and model as a way to infiltrate your organization. And
Mhm.
they are spending a lot, investing a lot of resources and effort and cycles into making sure that both sides of that equation is actually strong.
Mm. Can you elaborate a little bit about like so like we started with you basically mentioned about the foundational labs, right? So for example, serving a foundational labs, like what how many tasks do you have to kind of implement to like um let the basically before you deploy a product. So for example, I'm just using like cloud cowork as an example. Clearly, I mean, I'm just out of curiosity. Like, so how do you, let's say for Alice, like, how do you work with them to like be, testing it out? I don't like if they can work or no. Is this pen testing or no?
So without referring to any particular customer, we have like a lot of customers, and I can't
Right, right, right.
think
Mhm.
like anybody in
Yeah, they
particular.
may actually be your customer. Okay, let's just use just anything, right?
So it doesn't matter, like whatever model that is out there.
Hmm.
They all have their own special prioritization, their own needs, their own weaknesses, their own strengths. So it really depends, and pretty much all of them are very open about it. Every time there's a new model, there's something called model card, and in that model card, it can be a document of like hundreds of pages. They describe what did they do in order to test and prove the capabilities of the model, but also how did they showed where the model shortcomings and what are the vulnerabilities and how it can be broken and how
Hmm.
they actually tested it and they saw it didn't break. So there's and you can see if you kind of like look into any model code, people are talking about anywhere from CBRNE, kind of like the biological weapon instructions and explosives, and how they stop the model from teaching someone to do that, about like cyber attacks, how they're preventing the model from performing autonomous cyber attacks, things
Hmm.
like computer and tool use, how good the model is in actually operating a regular white collar task using Excel or using HubSpot or Salesforce, you name it, and a very long tail of issues and capabilities. So when
Hmm.
you're stress testing or red teaming or pen testing or hardening, there's like many ways to
Hmm.
call it. You're basically doing anywhere from trying to break a model using prompts all the way to running the model on a gym and kind of like creating all kinds of tripwires to see where it falls and where it fails and
Hmm.
where it succeeds, and then you can take the actual telemetry and provide that in order to solve problems or even or even get it ready for the next round of retrain. So
Hmm.
there's a certain art to this science, and there's also like a certain art to the science of trying to break it.
Mm. I wonder, so like you mentioned there was like so you mentioned about like there's like 100 pages of things. Like are they code that's like written on the internet that like, when you're doing red teaming, pen testing, all these kind of like testing to essentially like try to like break the system using prompt, like
Mhm.
is there So like how does it work for like Alice, or like for, security product to prevent it? Is that like when so and so is like do you do the testing part, or like do you I'm sure you probably do both, like the testing and as well as like the solution part, right? So like how do you like prevent, or like how do you secure the jailbreaks?
So for our model companies and platform
Mhm.
companies, we show them what was broken and how it was broken, and
Yeah.
then they can also get the data in order to solve the issues.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's like it's one of the same. Like if I showed you a problem,
Mhm.
I pointed you to the right direction, you say, "Oh yeah, okay, I know how to fix it." But in
Mhm.
many cases, when you're fixing something, something else is breaks,
Mhm.
or you just didn't have enough time to check everything. So this
Mhm.
is like continuous work. You're constantly improving things. It's like you're building a new version of software, and
Mhm.
okay, you fixed all the bugs, but
Mhm.
you never find all of the bugs. And B, as you make progress, you create
Mhm.
more bugs. And then things that were not bugs are now bugs because the context is changing. So it's a continuous process. This
Mhm.
is for foundation models. For enterprises that are using AI, the process is more complicated because they have less capabilities. You need to first every version before something is getting up to production, and sometimes you're sending like several versions a day. You need to do some robustness testing, like red teaming that is very aggressive. The tests for everything based on your specific policy. So, think even about like an insurance chatbot or personal finance or airline or
Mhm.
entertainment or government services. The
Mhm.
way that they would define what's allowed and what's not can be very different. It's a different language, different culture, different slang, different brand. Like things that are okay for a brand that is was created for kids under 13 would not be the same thing for Virgin Airline
Mhm.
and things that are more like mature. Now, the way to test it, you need to test it for security, you need to test it for privacy, for accuracy,
Mhm.
and for safety. What's safety? Safety is subjective in many cases. It can be things from brand protection all the way to profanity, all the way to what kind of information you're willing to even accept as,
Mhm.
as an agent or a chatbot. So that test is very specific. This is before you're even in production, before you met the first customer. Then once you're in production, you want to separate it too. You want to have a continuous and autonomous red teaming, like to
Mhm.
check for new threats, new things you didn't think about, things that are maybe a result of you not securing like a piece of the puzzle or a new feature that you didn't push. And then
Mhm.
there's kind of like the holy grail, which is the real-time guardrails. You need to have some sort of AI firewall, something that will block things from trying to break your setup,
Mhm.
something that will make sure that you're not activating tools you're not supposed to activate, or call to databases you're not supposed to
Mhm.
call, or have access to information you're not supposed to access to.
Mhm.
And also you want to block things that are coming out of the model to the user,
Mhm.
anywhere from PII, personal identifying information, things that again like talk about competitors, uh, and anything that would be something that can cause you damage, harm, embarrassment, and anything that is negative.
Mhm.
So this thing is again real. And also it needs to be in real time. Needs to make sure it's not adding too much to your token budget, and
Mhm.
it actually needs to be accurate. This is super complicated, and now every enterprise needs to deal with it. So there's a lot of heavy lifting and building coming into this thing.
I wanna so like I mean I wanted to like obviously you're the expert here, so like I guess like can would it be okay to like separate it into different layers? For example, like you unit testing, uh you know testing the small piece of code, and then there is like integrated testing, and then checking it how it kind of like work together with different like APIs, and then it's like a system end-to-end testing, which is like the full integrated system test, and then there is like UI testing, which is like I guess just from like a business perspective. Is this like how it normally layered up on the testing end?
Not really. It's what you're describing is kind of like how people used to do QA.
Oh.
In a way, in a world where everything is very deterministic, and you know what the expected result, and kind of like that everything that is not the expected result is a mistake. And in that case, it's pretty easy to build scripts that will test it, like every time you push something to production. This is not the case really anymore. And because different types of reasons. When you have software and like an adversarial behavior is mostly trying to hack into it or use all kinds of backdoors or new CVEs, there's the way that you break software that is deterministic is very straightforward. The way that you break chatbots or agents are more similar to the way you do social engineering or fraud even. There's something called indirect prompt injection, which is basically starting to create like a domino that you take down one piece, that takes down another piece, that takes down another piece, but it can be things from poisoning the RAG and kind of like slowly, day after day, creating data that confuses the model. And then you can have like a website with wrong information somewhere out there. And then like after another day, you create a prompt that is convincing the model that was already influenced by the poisoned data that you gave him to go to that website and take an instruction, and all of a sudden, bam, it went on. Now, this is not happening with regular software. It's like this is something that you do in order to for a phishing attack. So when you're testing against something like that, it's very different from unit testing. That's like one thing. Another thing is that the nature of the beast is that AI is not deterministic. You can tell it one thing 100 different times and get 100 different responses.
True.
Some responses would be okay. Some responses would be terrible. But in the middle, there's like a gray area that you don't know what will happen, how it will respond. So how do you test against something that reinvents itself every time you test it? Right? There's like unlimited amount of results. So this asks, begs for a completely different paradigm, and this is why it's very different from unit testing and the regular process of QA.
I was wondering, so like for who is the attackers typically? Are they just like trying to like scam ecosystem that like lives in like where, and then like what is the motivation for them to like attack? Obviously, I guess like it's money or something, but like, what do people typically attack something for, and then how do you?
So again, there's like many different reasons. It's also there's as like in cyber, most attacks are not that nefarious. Like more curiosity. Like when I grew up, I was very curious, and I tried to do a lot of things that could have been considered as attacks, but I just wanted to see if I can get inside. So you see a lot of forums like in Reddit and Discord and all kind of places of like folks kind of like bragging of, I broke this, I broke that. Look what I made this chatbot do. Here's jailbreaking, and there's a lot of street cred in this world, and it's so new, and people are very excited. And I know a few teenagers that's what they do all day long. Like they finish school, and they go and break someone's chatbot, and then they brag about it. It's like I don't know what's better, if they'll play their ride their skateboard and do like crazy stuff, or do that. And they are like very, very good kids. So definitely not attackers. But in many cases, the motivation behind doing it is because you want to get access to the information of the organization. It's because you want to burst it, because you want to something to extort it. There's many reasons why like bad actor will try to break into models. There's also reasons that you just want to weaponize the model. You want to take, for example, everybody's talking about the that we're getting close to having a company that would make $1 billion of ARR with one employee. And it would be because that one CEO, entrepreneur, employee would leverage AI in such a great way that they wouldn't need anyone. Well, I think we'll see the $1 billion one-person crime organization before we'll see the $1 billion company, because it's so much easy. It's so easier to orchestrate attacks and orchestrate spam attacks and sextortion and everything that is terrible online, and automate that and profit from it, than actually making money in a civil and legitimate way. So none of the models wants you to use them in order to do it. So the reason that folks would try to manipulate models and try to break them would have a lot of nefarious way. Also, again, there's also like the other side. There's like folks that are trying to do pen testing and trying to break legitimately into their customers' servers, would also try to leverage these models. So they sometimes they won't succeed, so they'll try to either get like an approval. There's like OpenAI and Anthropic, they have their like whitelisting for cyber experts, or they'll go to the open source to take like an open source model, and they even try to get rid of guardrails on that open source model. There's like all kinds of ways to do that. So again, I believe that most people that are using trying to break models and break agents are not doing it for nefarious reasons, but those that are doing it, they have the same interest as any other cyber attack, cyber espionage, and bad actors that are operating online today.
So many questions there too. So like I want to start with like, I think what you said is like really interesting, that like, the psychological part about like being a hacker is not necessarily like I want to make like $1 billion. It's more of like, oh, it's really badass. Like it give you like social credits on like, you can actually achieve a certain things. So it's kind of like a bragging point for people instead of like actually vicious attack on like I'm trying to steal like millions of dollars. You also mentioned about like it's easier to have like a 1 billion, or see like it faster as like a $1 billion crime company. And then I don't know if I should be legally asking you, like, how do they actually achieve like a one-person billion-dollar crime company? Is because I think the GLP-1, like the guy, like the two brothers who did like the $1 billion company, is like literally it's on marketing, right? So it's like they are reselling on like the GLP-1, or like getting coupon code for something like that. So it's like, but I feel like from the crime perspective, isn't that back end? So like it's more towards like the actual coding involved in the entire processes.
It's the same thing, but like the illegitimate point of it, like these like brothers that sold GLP. It's like eventually it's an affiliate marketing program. Like you create landing page,
Yeah.
you bring traffic, you sell a product, you drop ship it, whatever. I didn't look very hard into it, but
Mhm.
that's kind of like what I got from like skimming over like the
Mhm.
type.
Yeah.
When you create let's say, and when folks are creating spam campaigns or pump and dump, where you try and market a specific stock or a meme coin, and it
Mhm.
gets higher and higher and higher, you sell at the top, and then
Mhm. And
the
this guy, yeah.
price is dropping. This is also a marketing campaign, and it's working the same exact way. You create
Mhm.
a lot of bots. you create a lot of fake identities, you create a lot of content, you start pumping the rumor of this thing, and lo and behold, within a few days, you can make millions of dollars. Highly
Mhm,
not recommended. This is like extremely evil, but it's
mhm,
this. It's the same thing. You can also create like a fake product,
mhm,
get charge people money for it, like in a way that they cannot do like a clawback, and you just don't ship it. There's like, unfortunately, there's a lot of creativity in for bad actors, and
mhm,
they can scam people all the time. And
mhm,
bad news for the good guys out there is that while we need to create a scalable solution that will protect many people,
mhm,
but will also protect their rights and their freedom of for free speech and other things that
mhm,
are extremely important. Bad actors just need to win once. They just need to find like one like loophole, or one like this particular untapped loophole,
mhm,
squeeze the hell out of it, and pocket a
mhm,
lot of money. Uh,
mhm,
Good actors, they need to think about everything at once, and this is why like always bad actors will be one step ahead of everybody, and there's a lot of effort being invested into being able to see a lot, see and understand like how bad looks like, what are
mhm,
the means and methods, what are the trends, how bad actors actually operate, uh, not what they want everybody else to think, and try to be as close as possible to
mhm.
them. Like being a detective that is then like teaching everybody else how to stop crime.
Mm. I want to go back to Alice, right? So, like, you guys are working with quite a few like huge companies like Amazon and TikTok, and Lovable and stuff like that. So maybe we could start with like from the enterprise perspective, like what I mean. Obviously, they care a lot on like trust and like being able to, I guess like process everything securely. Maybe we could talk about like how do you put like I guess like you guys have the core product on the data side called Rabbit Hole. Like maybe we could talk about like the product itself and how do you kind of like selling into enterprise. So would it be like the CIOs to be buying these products, or like would it be like let's call it like the CTO?
So we're selling into, let's say, three different departments: into the trust and safety departments, into
Mhm,
responsible AI departments, and into the builders of AI products.
mhm,
Um, so trust and safety is very straightforward. Like the way we work is there's these teams are always underwater.
mhm,
Their job is insane. They need to be everywhere all at once. And if there's like one incident, they're getting shouted at. People think they're not doing their job, but actually, the fact that everything is pretty great all the time means that they are doing their job. It's like being a police officer. Now, if nothing
mhm,
happened, you don't think about the police.
mhm,
But if something terrible happened, so where the police was, like what happened. So it sounds like the same thing for trust and safety teams. And the way we partner with them is that we help them do their job better. We help them be in more places at once. We help them uh, find more horrible things that are that they were tasked to protect. So this is one type of team. Another team is the responsible AI team. That team within the model company, the foundation models, sometimes it's part of applied AI, sometimes it's part of the responsible AI. But basically, it's like how to make sure the model is not being weaponized and the model cannot be broken. Again, this is those are like researchers and product managers and product leaders that we help make sure that their models are incredible. For
mhm,
enterprises, this is still very interesting because many companies did not define how they are building customer facing experiences. So everybody's using agents. Okay. And
mhm,
if you think your employees are not using agents, they're using agents, you just don't know. And
mhm,
people are still struggling to find what's the scalable ROI here that is really changing the way the work is being done.
mhm,
And you can actually see this being ROI positive. You'll making your employees be way better. You're saving cost, you're increasing productivity, something meaningful. And the industry is still looking for that, not silver bullet, but for the guidebook of how to do it. And it will take time until this will happen. In this journey, a lot of organizations are trying to replace things like customer support and in agents. They're trying to create experiences that are more rich and more interesting. They're trying to provide more access to information and doing stuff for citizens and customers alike. And in that process, they create new types of applications. It is a very complicated process because there's folks that are involved, and the CIO is involved, like, and the product people are involved, and the CISO is involved because it needs to be secured. The marketing team is involved, and in every company there's like someone else. So we work with the teams that are building those experiences, mostly with the developers that are doing that, and also with the security folks. But right now we're working simultaneously with different people, and we're enjoying any moment of it because it's so fresh, it's so new, it's so exciting. We're learning together with our customers, and the fact that we can bring the knowledge, the insights from operating in the user-generated content space where there was always a long tail of threats, and we saw scale that these apps are dreaming about, and also understanding what's really breaking models makes us extremely useful and a true partner to our customers.
What are something like what I'm hearing is like it's kind of like you because security is touch upon like so many different like arena from like CISO, CTO to like even marketing department, like everything could have to be maintained like securely. So
Mhm.
from I guess like from your clients, since like your clients are like in so many different domains, so from like Nvidia to TikTok, like they're very different kind of like companies, like how do you kind of like create a product that could be standardized to these different things? And then we chat about foundational model as well. So from like the agent applications, so obviously I know that like agent is like one of the big focus for you guys now. Can we chat about like how do you um kind of like come up with a sub segment in these different kind of like categories, and then how do you think about like being able to leverage, I guess, like the uh I guess like just literally being able to like I guess like yeah, how do you create a product that's for different subdomains, and then how do you prioritize your time as a CEO? Since like I think like for maybe I actually don't know if Nvidia pays more or TikTok pays more. Like obviously we won't discuss that, but just curious like which segment will spend the most amount of money in security, and then how do you kind of like 10x, 100x that particular domain?
So effectively, we have a terrific team, and
Mhm,
we have different teams that are dealing with different segments and specializing in their particular problems. So being able to oversee and understand like these issues is thanks to our team and
mhm,
their great work across the board, but also being able to let's call it to be very involved in this industry from day one.
mhm,
So one of the biggest challenges that everybody have here, not just practitioners or startup companies or vendors in the space, is actually understand what's real and what's noise. Like understand kind of like, because everybody, like, you go on LinkedIn and you see that this person figured it all out. He
mhm,
completely automated the work of their company, and
mhm,
here's the framework that will make you create 500,000 leads in 5 seconds. And we just let go 5,000 people, and we're just working automatically. And it's all like lies, damn lies. And people kind of like fall into it, and they
mhm,
believe that there's like magic that is happening. You just use this skill, and all of a sudden everything will be okay. and it's not true. It's still very hard. Like it's more than just like typing something into Claude. You really need to reinvent the way things are being done in your company. You need to spend a lot of time into it. You need to understand kind of like how to use this technology. You need to don't have any emotional sentiment to a setup that you already created because tomorrow there's like a new version. This requires a lot of adjustments and pain and learning, active learning, and
Mhm.
humility and time.
Mm,
So the, I think that one of the great advantages that we have is that are fully aware that to how to deal with incredibly fast moving technology environment and how to actually be a trusted advisor and a guide to our customers as they're making their first steps here, because
mhm,
we are working with the most sophisticated companies in the world that are building the technology, that are creating the reality, and
mhm,
they know what to do. They know how to work it, and we're their trusted partners for a very long time. But with our enterprise customers, they never saw anything like it,
mhm,
and they are bombarded with expectations
mhm,
from inside, from their board, from their executives, from the stock market. And from outside, they're looking at competitors, they're looking at like what can be done, they're looking at marketing that is being created by the foundation models, and they're all very stressed. So they're putting something out there and it didn't work and they're disappointed. This is a very complicated place to be. And
mhm,
understanding that, having the empathy into that, even like mirroring it and explaining folks, we know this is happening. Don't worry, it's happening to everybody. Let's work
mhm,
for it. Let's build something unique that
mhm,
will stay for us for a very long time.
mhm.
Is I think a big advantage that we have.
Mm. I feel like so maybe we could talk about like the evolution of that tax, right? So like or like maybe another question is like so yeah. So I think like the evolution of a tax. So for example, let's say in AI compared to the non-AI kind of products, like obviously there's like just more technology to be leveraged on. I guess like a lot of like so for from like the voice model from like 11 Labs or anything, it could be like very mimicking so and so's like I guess like voice perspective or like any type of like video generated, that those are like some really huge changes. Also, what I could think of is like the prompting as like, in the past, like not many people were like you have to click on a link, it's like a phishing, yada yada. But like nowadays, like it could be injected into a prompt in your like perplexity result or Google result. Like what would you say is like the one thing that changes the most compared to non-AI companies?
So 100%, what you described, like prompt injection in its different
Mhm,
variations, is right now the biggest fear of the industry. Now, prompt injection can happen in many ways. It can happen in a direct way, like a prompt. It can happen in a
mhm,
non-direct way that you're creating it over time, like what we said like a few minutes ago. It can
mhm,
happen, in the value chain. There's many ways. It's kind of like a blanket term for ways to break your model, your app, or your agent. And this is probably the biggest one. Like another concern is when we're creating something with AI, what exactly are we creating? It's kind of like
mhm,
nobody's reviewing everything. So what's inside? Is it hiding things it's not supposed to have there, like information that I don't want to leak? Is it containing things that are completely nonsensical? Is it going to embarrass me? There's a lot of concerns. Those are just like two huge concerns, but just two. There's a lot.
mm. Um, Speaking of prompt injection, so like my biggest fear is like when I download like Clawbot and I have to like uninstall it within like 24 hours because I'm not exactly sure what it will do. Like so for example, it will it like automatically being prompt injected to opening your bank account, yada yada. So like um what are your I guess like tips for like the people who are actually leveraging AI to do a bunch of work? Like what are something that people may never think of is like a way for people to attack something?
So most people can't imagine that there are now infrastructure that is being built online just to trick agents,
Mhm.
not even to trick humans. Like a lot of people are kind of like letting. I'm not even talking about tools that you give voluntarily to an agent a lot of agency, like
Mhm.
Global, like OpenClaw and others. But even if you're like, conducting research and you're saying, "Hey, I want to buy the best fridge. Give
Mhm.
me like the best recommendation for like appliances." So there was always the SEO industry where you were using all kinds of tricks in order to convince a search engine to recommend
Mhm.
your product,
Mhm.
and that's like a massive industry. This is one of the biggest like online industries out there, and it was created around Google. A
Mhm.
similar industry is now, or more like the SEO industry is evolving
Mhm.
to match the world where you're doing a lot of your searches on a foundation model. Now, you can't compare. Like search is still number one by far. And
Mhm.
yesterday, we were shooting this in April 30th. Yesterday, April 29th, Google released their Q1 results, and they showed everybody that search is up 20%, which is insane. Um, so this is still massive, but folks that are looking on in ChatGPT or any other foundation model,
Mhm.
the model is then searching online on their behalf.
Mhm.
The way an agent consumes information is very different from the way a human consumes information and the way a search engine consumes information. So there are now it's even easier to
Mhm.
convince a model because you know that like a model is getting a lot of inspiration, call it from LinkedIn, from Reddit, from specific domains. There are even all kinds of like applications that are telling you where they're bringing their information, so you can even do like manipulation on them. There's a way to manipulate the stock price now. There's a lot of different ways, and there's like a new game now that is all about manipulating models. And again, like companies are now leveraging guardrails and other defense mechanism against it,
Mhm.
but unfortunately, it's still and will be for a very long time like a wild west out there.
Mm. What would you say is so I want to start like so like there's like three subdomain that I wanted to cover before our chat ends. So one is like from the pricing perspective. So right now, like we're seeing that like, it's people are doing outcome based pricing instead of per seat or like something more like, product based. So how do you think about pricing your product right now?
So when people are doing outcome-based pricing, it's very related to a trend to shift services and
Mhm.
let's say create them with AI, with agentic
Mhm.
workflow. And it's also because you don't need seats as much. Like you don't need to have
Mhm.
50 seats on Salesforce if you can access it like in a headless way, kind of like the way that you'll access the API, and
Mhm.
let an agent bring everything you need into a dashboard that you vibe coded, and it's just for like
Mhm.
the salesperson. So why the hell do I need a seat? I just need access. So people
Mhm.
would license access
Mhm.
or license, like another way that I'm sure we'll come up with as as society and industry. The way that we price is based on consumption
Mm.
because we're effectively an API solution that is detecting and classifying content or
Mhm.
behavior, and also you can use us in order to test your model. And again, this is also based on consumption and amounts of attacks and how you're representing them. So for us, it's pretty straightforward. Our goal is also to minimize the amount of tax that people need to pay on top of on top of their tokens. So
Mhm.
because tokens are very expensive right now,
Mhm.
and they're probably going to be, even if they'll be like 10 times cheaper because the consumption will go up. So
Mhm.
we're trying to make our customers as successful as possible and make sure they pay as less as possible.
Mm. Um, How about like I guess like another big bracket I wanted to ask is like what would be like one piece of strategy that you feel like your team have executed like that kind of set you apart?
Mm, there's this saying of like do things that don't scale,
Mhm,
like program. We
mhm,
do things that most people don't want to do,
mhm,
or we're thinking about like those topics that people are saying like, how the hell are we going to do that? This is like so
mhm,
complicated. This is such a pain. Like, no, we're not doing this. And
mhm,
so we do. And we're thinking about what is the not just the hard problem, but the problem that people can't even think wrap their head around.
mhm,
That is so complicated. People are not even considering solving inside. And this is what we usually do. And it proved itself every time. Like because it makes you way more defensible.
mhm.
There's not a lot of competition, and there's a lot of people that share the problem, so it's also very profitable.
Mhm.
But this is kind of like a very straightforward piece of advice.
What would be do you have a one example of, like, things that people don't wanna do that your team is doing?
Yeah, people don't want to track scammers online in their real environment. People don't like to find like how child predators operate online. People don't like to deal with that stuff. People don't want to understand like how people don't want to go into communities where like the worst of the worst is being shared and understand it. 'Cause it's sad, but if you actually can be the one that is doing it, understands it, build the solutions against it, you can do incredible things. You can make the world better, and it also gives a lot of purpose into what you do. So again, there's not a lot of people that would do that. People would much rather optimize the way you're processing payments. So it's so much cleaner. But we chose to do this, and I'm very thankful that we did.
Um, I'm curious, like, so do people, process so, for example, when you mention about this information, uh, do you, like, physically track where the word is going, or would it be like a cyber or like the online version of
We
that?
not
So, like, literally going on, like, a different website or something?
it's like the threat intelligence industry that effectively is trying to understand how hackers and cyber attacks are being distributed and created
Mhm,
uh, in a similar fashion, but in for other sources of chatter and online communities. And this is we're trying to understand how those attacks are being created, how they choose their victims, how they try to hide um, their their operation, and to translate that into signals that helps us find them on a scalable way. So it's
mhm.
online; it's not physical.
So I love that. I feel like this is so fascinating because I feel like it's kind of like a watching like the true crime stuff, but like online. I
Oh,
want to be mindful of the time, but maybe we'll do one real question and then 1 minute fire round, if that's
uh,
okay.
I need to drop now.
Okay. Oh,
But I have
sad.
one
Okay.
question.
Okay. Perfect. I feel like we covered. I would definitely cover a lot, but thank you so much, Noam, for coming on the show today.
Cool. Thank you very much, Grace. It's been a pleasure.
Let me quickly end stream. 1 sec. It's about to end.